In today's world, we're constantly told to share, express, and be transparent. From social media posts to boardroom discussions, the louder we speak, the more attention we get. But what if I told you that the most powerful people, whether in leadership, negotiations, or personal relationships, are often the ones who speak the least? This is where the genius of Niccolò Machiavelli comes into play. In his timeless work, The Prince, Machiavelli shared a revolutionary idea. In a world dominated by noise, silence can be your most strategic weapon. He understood that true power doesn't come from speaking constantly. It comes from knowing when to say nothing at all. In this video, we're diving deep into the art of strategic silence, a tool that can elevate your influence, protect your position, and help you achieve your goals while others are still talking about theirs. Stay tuned as we uncover Machiavelli's brilliant insights on how silence can be your greatest strength in today's overcommunicative world. In our modern world, where oversharing is almost a social norm, we often forget the true cost of constantly talking. Machiavelli, a master of strategy, understood that every word we speak carries a price, whether it's revealing our plans, exposing our thought processes, or making unnecessary commitments. When we speak too much, we bind ourselves to our words. Once we declare our intentions or opinions, we are often expected to follow through. But what happens if circumstances change or new opportunities arise? You become stuck, unable to adapt without seeming inconsistent or dishonest. Machiavelli noted, "Speech creates appearances, while silence preserves reality." By talking constantly, we reveal our thoughts, our plans, and even our vulnerabilities. The more we speak, the more we expose ourselves, giving others the chance to predict, manipulate, or counter us. The moment you make your thinking public, you give away valuable insight into your mind. Your opponents, colleagues, or even friends now know exactly how you think, leaving you less prepared for what comes next. Now, ask yourself, how much of your own power have you given away simply by talking too much? By remaining silent, you protect your position, preserve your freedom, and retain the authority that others will never have when they're too busy talking. Now that we've discussed the cost of unnecessary speech, let's explore how Machiavelli's strategy of silence isn't just about withholding words, it's about using silence as a tool, strategically and purposefully. Machiavelli didn't just recommend silence for the sake of quietness. He understood that different types of silence serve different strategic goals. Let's break them down. 1. Information gathering silence. Machiavelli emphasized that the wise person speaks last, allowing others to reveal their thoughts, weaknesses, and intentions first. He famously wrote, "The fool speaks immediately, revealing their position while learning nothing about others." When you remain silent, you allow others to expose their plans, desires, and vulnerabilities without them knowing much about you. This is the core principle of asymmetric information. You gather intelligence while others unknowingly reveal their strategies. In negotiations, this is why the first person to speak often loses. Whoever speaks first gives up their position, while the silent party gains valuable insight. The person who listens more than they speak often walks away with a clearer understanding of the dynamics at play. This applies not just in business, but in every interaction. Think about it. In relationships or in competitive situations, the less you speak, the more you know. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, try listening first. You may uncover far more than you would have if you had spoken right away. 2. Authority-building silence. Machiavelli knew that part of true power lies in perception. Silence helps build authority by maintaining a certain distance. He observed, "A prince must imitate the fox and the lion, for the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves." Part of the fox's cunning, he said, is knowing when speech diminishes rather than enhances authority. Authority-building silence works because people naturally fill gaps in information with their own assumptions, often favoring the silent party. When a leader speaks selectively and addresses only significant issues, their words hold more weight. Think about the leader who doesn't justify every decision, the colleague who responds only when necessary, and the expert who provides insights without endless explanations. This silence projects confidence and control. When you speak less, your words carry more power. Think about the most influential people in any organization. they speak less frequently, but when they do, it commands attention. The anxious or insecure speaker constantly justifies, while the confident one remains calm, selective, and in control. 3. Ambiguity-preserving silence. The final type of strategic silence is ambiguity-preserving silence. Machiavelli understood that sometimes the best strategy is to remain vague, allowing others to project their own desires or expectations onto your position. By not providing clear answers, you maintain flexibility and freedom of action. This type of silence is widely used by politicians, negotiators, and leaders. They make statements that are open to interpretation, allowing various groups to hear what they want to hear. Machiavelli even noted that in politics have no relation to morals. Effective strategy often requires flexibility that premature clarity could undermine. This is especially important in negotiations. The more specific you get, the more you limit your options. Ambiguity-preserving silence allows you to keep your strategies flexible and adjust your approach without locking yourself into a corner. By withholding clarity, you maintain control over the conversation. These 3 types of strategic silence, information gathering, authority building, and ambiguity preserving, are not about shutting down communication entirely. They're about using silence as a strategic advantage, maintaining your position while others reveal theirs. Silence, when used purposefully, can give you a tremendous advantage, whether you're in a negotiation, a leadership role, or even navigating personal relationships. Now, think about this. When was the last time you used silence as a strategy? Did you gather more information or retain more control because you waited before speaking? It's time to start recognizing when silence can serve your objectives better than words. Beyond the tactical advantages of silence, Machiavelli's strategy also taps into the psychological effects that silence can exert. Silence doesn't just leave others guessing about your next move, it plays with their minds, shaping their perceptions and actions in ways that words cannot. 1. Creating projection spaces. One of the most powerful psychological effects of silence is its ability to create projection spaces. Human beings instinctively fill gaps in information with their own assumptions and emotions. When you remain silent at key moments, others project their own fears, hopes, or desires onto that silence, often revealing more than they intended. Consider this. In negotiations, when the silence lingers, the other party often feels the pressure to speak up. They might make concessions or divulge more than they plan to, trying to fill the uncomfortable void. In relationships, silence can have a similar effect, allowing the other person to project their feelings onto you, which can reveal their true intentions. Machiavelli understood this dynamic well. He recognized that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. But silence doesn't deceive, it allows others to reveal their own positions, opening the door to information that they might have withheld if you had spoken first. 2. Establishing dominance in communication dynamics. Silence also plays a significant role in establishing dominance in communication dynamics. The person who speaks the most often seeks approval and validation from others, while the person who speaks less exerts control and commands respect. Machiavelli's principle that it is better to be feared than loved can be seen here as well. The person who talks incessantly seeks attention, whereas the person who speaks selectively and strategically keeps their power intact. By not seeking approval through constant words, you position yourself as the one in control of the situation. Think about this in everyday scenarios. In meetings, the person who dominates the conversation can often be perceived as insecure, overcompensating for a lack of confidence. On the other hand, the person who speaks less but with authority is perceived as confident and in control. Silence here doesn't diminish influence, it amplifies it by establishing a sense of composure and confidence. 3. Creating mystique. Finally, silence adds an element of mystique to your persona. When you choose what to reveal carefully, and when you hold back certain thoughts or feelings, you become more intriguing and formidable. Machiavelli observed that what cannot be fully seen or understood often appears more formidable than what is completely exposed. In leadership, this is particularly crucial. Leaders who are too transparent and who explain every thought process lose their sense of mystery, and with it, their authority. The leader who speaks only when necessary, and who keeps the decision-making process private, maintains an air of mystery that reinforces their power. This applies not only to leadership but to personal interactions as well. The person who shares every detail of their life becomes predictable, while the person who withholds certain pieces of information, keeping their cards close to the chest, retains a sense of intrigue. That mystique commands attention and respect in a way that constant communication cannot. The psychological power of silence is not just about withholding information, it's about shaping how others perceive you, how they react to you, and how they are influenced by you. By mastering this power, you don't just control the conversation, you control the narrative, the dynamics, and the outcome. Now, think about your own experiences. Have you ever been in a situation where silence gave you an upper hand, or where your own words revealed too much? The next time you find yourself in a high-stakes conversation, remember, silence can be your most powerful psychological tool. In today's world, transparency is often seen as a virtue. We are encouraged to be open, authentic, and share our true selves with others. Whether it's on social media, in professional settings, or in personal relationships, the idea of complete transparency is promoted as the ideal. But Machiavelli would argue that this compulsion toward full disclosure isn't always a strength, it can be a strategic mistake. 1. The transparency trap. Machiavelli observed that being overly transparent ties you to your past declarations and actions. When you share everything, you give away your flexibility, locking yourself into positions that might limit your future actions. He famously said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." By over-explaining or making premature promises, you surrender the freedom to adapt and shift as circumstances change. In modern terms, this would mean oversharing about your personal life, revealing every plan before it's even set in motion, or expressing every fleeting thought as if it's set in stone. This kind of openness can lead to unpredictability, both for yourself and for others. You may end up having to follow through on plans that are no longer feasible or risk appearing inconsistent when new information comes to light. 2. Surrendering power through unnecessary disclosure. Machiavelli would view this constant need to be transparent not as authenticity, but as a voluntary surrender of power. By revealing everything, you make yourself predictable and easier to manipulate. The more you disclose, the less mystery you retain, and with that loss of mystery comes a loss of influence. Consider the workplace. A leader who explains every decision, justifies every move, and shares every thought diminishes their authority. They become ordinary, as Machiavelli pointed out, and ordinary leaders do not command the same respect or power as those who maintain an aura of mystery and control. Transparency, when overused, undermines your ability to inspire awe and respect. 3. Machiavelli's call for selective disclosure. Machiavelli didn't suggest that leaders or individuals be deceptive. Far from it. His approach was about selective disclosure. He believed that the key to power wasn't lying or manipulating through deception, but carefully choosing what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. By withholding unnecessary information, you keep your options open, preserve flexibility, and retain control over your narrative. The modern obsession with being authentic often leads to oversharing, whether it's revealing personal information on social media, disclosing your negotiating position too early, or sharing thoughts that have not yet fully formed. Machiavelli would warn against this, advocating for a more disciplined, calculated approach where only that which benefits your objectives is shared. Now that we've explored the theory behind strategic silence, it's time to dive into how you can apply these concepts in your daily life. Silence isn't just about withholding words. It's about using silence as a strategic tool for gaining an advantage, protecting your position, and shaping the outcomes of your interactions. 1. Mastering silence in negotiations. In negotiations, silence can be your most powerful weapon. When the conversation stalls, when there's a moment of uncertainty, the silence you maintain can often lead the other party to make concessions or reveal their true position. As Machiavelli advised, the first to speak in a negotiation often loses. The key is to allow the other person to make the first move, share their demands, and reveal their weaknesses before you respond. Next time you're in a negotiation, practice the art of silence. When there's a pause, resist the urge to fill the space. Instead, Use that moment to gather your thoughts, assess the situation, and let the other person reveal more than they intended. Silence creates pressure, and the other party will feel compelled to act. 2. Silence in leadership and management. As a leader, speaking less is not a sign of weakness but of strength. When you speak less and choose your words carefully, you elevate the power and authority of each statement. Your team or colleagues will respect you more when you don't over-explain decisions or justify every move. Consider this. When a leader speaks constantly, they risk sounding insecure or indecisive, as if they are seeking approval for every action. But when a leader is deliberate and measured in their speech, they convey confidence and conviction. In your leadership role, try to implement strategic silence by pausing before responding, allowing your team to offer solutions or thoughts first. This not only empowers others but also positions you as the confident, composed leader who doesn't need to speak constantly to assert authority. 3. Using silence to preserve your mystique. In personal relationships or social interactions, silence can help maintain a sense of mystery and allure. People are naturally drawn to those who don't reveal everything about themselves. By withholding certain details, emotions, or intentions, you create an air of intrigue. Machiavelli understood that what cannot be fully seen or understood appears more formidable than what is fully exposed. The less you reveal, the more others will be intrigued by you. When you practice silence in your personal life, you give others the space to wonder, to project, and to form their own assumptions. It's not about hiding or being deceitful, it's about controlling the narrative and creating the space for others to come to you on your terms. This allows you to maintain an air of control and influence, especially in new relationships or social situations. 4. Silence to protect your future actions. Another important use of silence is to preserve flexibility for the future. In many situations, speaking too soon, offering definitive answers, or making absolute commitments can limit your options down the road. Whether it's in professional decisions, personal commitments, or even simple everyday matters, saying less can give you the freedom to adapt to changing circumstances. By remaining ambiguous in certain situations, you keep your options open, ensuring that you don't lock yourself into a position that could later become problematic. Machiavelli understood the importance of this strategic ambiguity, saying, "It is not the appearance of action that matters, but its effectiveness." By not committing too quickly or too strongly, you maintain the ability to shift your approach when necessary, preserving your power and control. The real strength lies not in how much you say, but in how much power you retain by knowing when to keep silent. As we move forward in understanding the power of silence, it's important to realize that mastering silence is not just about avoiding words, it's about saying the right things at the right moments. By practicing strategic silence, you cultivate an ability to achieve more with less. Machiavelli didn't advise silence for the sake of an action but as a deliberate strategy to gain a tactical advantage. 1. Silence as a tool for self-control. Machiavelli believed that one of the greatest strengths a ruler or individual can possess is self-control. When you control your words, you control your emotions, and when you control your emotions, you control the situation. The less you speak, the less you risk reacting impulsively or emotionally, and the more you can think and act with clarity. In moments of high pressure or conflict, silence provides you with a moment to breathe, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. For example, in a heated meeting or debate, rather than reacting immediately, you can take a pause. This pause allows you to assess your response, choose your words carefully, and avoid giving away too much too soon. Strategic silence also helps you avoid saying things you might later regret. When emotions run high, it's easy to say things in the heat of the moment. Silence, however, helps you maintain composure and think through your actions, especially when dealing with people who might be trying to provoke you or push your buttons. 2. Silence in conflict resolution. In conflict situations, silence can be a powerful conflict resolution tool. Rather than escalating a disagreement with more words, you can use silence to de-escalate. By holding your ground in silence, you force the other party to reflect, respond, and adjust their approach. Often, they'll be the ones to soften their stance or offer concessions, simply because the silence makes them uncomfortable. Machiavelli would likely advise that when conflict arises, use silence as a way to shift the power dynamic in your favor. When you're not feeding into the conflict with words, you maintain control over the situation. Silence forces the other party to reconsider their approach and can help you avoid unnecessary escalation. 3. Silence in building relationships. While silence may seem counterintuitive when it comes to building relationships, the truth is that strategic silence can strengthen your connections with others. In any relationship, communication is key, but it's not just about speaking, it's also about listening. When you remain silent in conversations, you show others that you are genuinely interested in hearing what they have to say. This active listening creates trust and respect, and it makes people feel valued. In contrast, speaking over others or interrupting them can make them feel unheard or unimportant. Moreover, when you speak less, your words become more impactful. In a relationship, whether personal or professional, it's not always about saying the most, it's about saying the right things at the right time. Strategic silence allows you to pick the moments that matter, ensuring that your words have maximum effect. So, start incorporating more silence into your daily interactions. Practice patience, take a pause before responding, and allow your silence to speak volumes. Whether in leadership, negotiations, relationships, or personal growth, saying less can often lead to achieving much more. Remember, the wise person knows that true power comes not from speaking constantly, but from choosing when to speak, when to listen, and when to remain silent. Let silence be your strength, and watch as it transforms your ability to succeed, influence, and lead. In many situations, knowing when to step back and withdraw can be as powerful as speaking less. Machiavelli, though famous for his insights into power, also understood that sometimes the greatest strength lies in stepping back, observing, and letting the situation evolve without your direct involvement. This is another key aspect of silence: the silence of strategic withdrawal. 1. Silence as a tool for retreating in power. Machiavelli once said, "It is not the power that you hold, but the power you can keep." When you're too active or too present, you risk overexposure, and with it, the risk of losing control over your position. Strategic withdrawal, or choosing your battles, allows you to conserve your energy and position yourself for a stronger return when the timing is right. Imagine this scenario. In a competitive environment, like business or even personal relationships, sometimes it's wiser to withdraw for a while, whether it's stepping back from a toxic discussion, holding off on reacting to criticism, or taking a brief break from a conflict. By doing so, you don't just preserve your energy, you also maintain your power. This allows the other party to make mistakes, overreach, or expose themselves, which positions you for a more strategic and impactful re-entry into the situation. Machiavelli understood that retreating in power doesn't mean losing ground. It means holding back and observing the full dynamics of a situation before making your next move. 2. Using silence to regain perspective. Sometimes, the constant noise and interaction in our lives can cloud our judgment. Silence, especially in the form of withdrawal, gives us the space we need to regain perspective and clear our minds. Machiavelli advised rulers to retreat at moments of intense pressure, to recalibrate and regain control before making further decisions. In your own life, if you feel overwhelmed by too many opinions or too much conflict, stepping away and embracing silence can give you the clarity you need. This withdrawal allows you to reset, reflect, and return with a fresh perspective, free from the distractions and pressures of the moment. In practice, this means stepping back when faced with conflict, disengaging from a conversation that's not going anywhere productive, or simply taking a moment of silence before responding to a stressful situation. These quiet moments of withdrawal not only protect your emotional energy but help you avoid rash decisions made in haste. 3. The strategic silence of waiting for the right moment. The ability to wait for the right moment is one of the most powerful aspects of silence. Machiavelli often emphasized the importance of timing in gaining and maintaining power. Silence allows you to wait, observe, and choose the exact moment to act. When you speak too early or act impulsively, you risk losing control or being forced into a position that you can't easily escape from. For example, in negotiations, instead of rushing to make an offer or give away too much too soon, waiting for the right moment to present your terms is crucial. In relationships, sometimes waiting for the right time to discuss a sensitive issue can lead to more favorable outcomes, as opposed to bringing it up too early or without proper preparation. Strategic withdrawal and silence help you choose your moments wisely. By observing, waiting, and allowing the right time to unfold, you're able to act with precision, ensuring that your actions land with maximum impact. As we've seen throughout this discussion, the art of silence is not just about withholding words. It's about strategic choice, self-control, and understanding when silence becomes your most powerful tool. Whether you're navigating a complex negotiation, leading with authority, or simply seeking to regain perspective in moments of chaos, silence can be the key to achieving more with less. Machiavelli's wisdom teaches us that power doesn't lie in what we say, but in how we choose to speak and, more importantly, when we choose to remain silent. By practicing strategic silence, you can maintain control, protect your energy, and position yourself for success in all areas of life. So, the next time you're in a high-stakes conversation, a challenging negotiation, or even a personal interaction, remember this. Silence is not a void, it's an active, purposeful strategy. The quieter you are, the more powerful your words become when you do speak. If you found this approach insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on mastering the art of influence and leadership. And as always, take a moment to reflect. How will you use silence to your advantage today?